Hunter Biden, as the surviving son of Joe Biden, is in the business world, and his business activities have been attracting attention pretty much every time Joe Biden is run for public office. This goes back to really the 2000s when his father was running to try to win in 2007, 2008. And at that point in time, Hunter's lobbying activities was a source of attack from the right, because Hunter was working for a firm and he was representing mostly Catholic universities and Catholic university hospitals as a lobbyist. What happens after that is Hunter gets involved in trying to make money in a series of companies. One thing he does, which attracts probably the most attention, is try to get some deals in China, and also takes a seat on the board of Burisma, the Ukrainian gas company.
So what exactly he was doing for Burisma?
Burisma was trying to expand globally at the time in 2014, and they wanted to bring on an international board. They initially hired as a board member Hunter's business partner, Devin Archer, and after that they offered the position to Hunter Biden. The job was to help them with their corporate governance, to try to create a company that was, that met Western and United States standards. The reason they wanted to do that is because they were seeking, they wanted to get investments from Western investors, including from investors in the United States. What Hunter did for the company to earn the money he was receiving every month remains a little bit hard to determine. Mostly he was advising them on steps that the board should take in order to kind of meet Western standards. And there's been some criticism, which I don't think is completely unjustified, that Burisma chose to hire him mainly because of his last name, and because they were hoping that their association with Joe Biden's son would provide domestic protection for Burisma against the oligarch that runs Burisma, protection against him domestically, but also help curry favor in the United States for Burisma, which was facing criticism for its role in how Zlочевський created the company. And after 2014, there was an effort backed by the United States to try to prosecute Zlочевський for potential corruption.
And do you think it's like a corruption really case, and what Hunter Biden tells you about it?
Well, Hunter thought that he, was justified in taking this position with Burisma, but it certainly created a potential conflict of interest, and many diplomats who I spoke to, who worked at the embassy in Kiev and who worked on Ukrainian issues in Washington, either at the State Department, at the White House, were really uncomfortable with his decision, because it made it seem that American officials who were trying to tell the Ukrainians how they needed to be less corrupt, how nepotism and favoritism needed to be rooted out in the Ukrainian system. Here was the son of the vice president getting a lucrative job on the board of the company, which created at least the appearance of favoritism that was going on the part of Burisma choosing somebody to try to improve the company's image in the United States.
Can we also explain and how it's used, how the scandal is actually used in the politics here, how the name of Hunter Biden, is it a big political story? To what extent it's also influencing the election, might influence?
Yeah. So it's become a very big political story. The Republicans have seized on Hunter Biden, mainly because Joe Biden, generally speaking, has a reputation for being a clean politician. So by pointing to Hunter's activities, it's a way to try to tarnish Joe Biden's reputation. And so that's the reason why they focused on Hunter. He has made some decisions that he himself acknowledges now were mistakes. And the Republicans have decided to seize on this as a way of trying to hurt Joe Biden. Whether it's going to be successful in hurting Joe Biden, we really don't know. I mean, the Republicans think that this is an effective line of attack, but the polling numbers haven't changed all that much since they've focused on this.
Is it like now one of the biggest criticism of, like among the, what is
I'd say it was the biggest. It seems to be the main line of attack that the Republicans and Trump have chosen. There have been other things that they've focused on in the past. Trump has tried to portray Joe Biden as being senile, as being too old for the job. But really, in the final weeks of this campaign, Trump has zeroed in on the idea that Biden is corrupt. And in order to make the allegation that Biden is corrupt, and I will tell you, as far as I can tell, Biden is not corrupt. But in order to try to make that case, Trump is doing is focusing on the business activities of his son, Hunter Biden.
And can you really, I know it's not easy to put it short, but just really to explain the persona of Hunter Biden, because apart from he was working Burisma, there was a particular moment in his life,
yeah,
and there was his personal issues of a very particular person, why he
I think Hunter Biden is a well-meaning person. He's smart, but he has addiction problems, and those addiction problems, when he's using, results in him making some bad decisions, at which he now acknowledges he's made. One of those bad decisions that he made during this period in 2014, he acknowledges, was the decision to join the board of Burisma. He thinks he did. He thinks he was He doesn't think it was a corrupt decision to join the board of Burisma, but he now understands, in a way that he didn't at the time, that it was a bad decision that has had implications for his father.
Who exactly was kind of link him to the company?
Well, he didn't really do a proper analysis of, who Zlочевський was, what Burisma was. There was some, investigation that was done by a company that was brought in, but he really didn't understand what he was getting involved in. And frankly, the same question could be asked of Zlочевський by choosing to have Hunter Biden on the board. It's pretty clear that Zlочевський, was also gambling by choosing to have Hunter on the board. Obviously, I don't think he realized the damage that would be done to his reputation and to his company's reputation by having Hunter on the board, knowing that it would become such a political issue in the United States.
Can you just shortly, just also maybe a bit more detail? I know it's delicate. Just really explain. So was he really not just addict? He was on the brink of suicide, and what was his really how? Because addicted it's one thing, but how strong is his problems?
Well, I mean,
personal problems he has.
So he'd been struggling for many years, a decade, with addiction, with alcohol in particular, and he had gone. He was sought treatment at various points and had relapses. But what really was affecting him at this point in time when he joined the board of Burisma was was the cancer that was killing his brother. His brother, Hunter Biden, and his brother, Beau Biden, were incredibly close. They were, in many ways, Beau was the one who was always intervening to try to help his brother, and during relapses, trying to get him assistance. And when his brother was sick, Hunter, had a terrible relapse and was in an incredibly bad place. That's when the Burisma offer is placed to him. He takes that job, and then his brother Beau dies in 2015, and Hunter has another terrible relapse. At this point, he becomes addicted to crack cocaine, and he is not himself. He is making terrible decisions during this period. This is the period in time when he is also doing this all in secret, when there's so much focus on his father, whether or not he's going to run for election in 2016. So there's tremendous pressure on Hunter. He's incredibly depressed during this period. There are moments when he is contemplating suicide, and this is what he's dealing with privately. And in order to basically keep making money, in order to support his family, he's relying on the money he's getting from Burisma and from some of these other deals that he's trying to make at this point in time.
And finally, just really explain what was his business discussion with his father, and what are the relations with professional and non-professional with Joe Biden, how it's also affected the...
So Hunter, Bo, and Joe Biden are incredibly close, but Hunter, as a business person, created sort of a firewall where he wouldn't discuss with his father his business activities. This is according to Hunter and according to Joe Biden and according to the people around Joe Biden. So there was this line that Hunter wouldn't cross, where he wouldn't tell his father what he was doing in business, and his father wouldn't ask him what he was doing. This was done in part to protect his father, because his father was involved in so many things that might create a conflict of interest for some of his son's activities. So the way they dealt with this was just not to talk about it. And Hunter was going to do his business and he was going to make his decisions, and Joe Biden was going to have no role whatsoever in that and not even ask about it. Obviously, this was a system that was bound to cause a problem in the end, which is what it did cause, because they weren't having this discussion about what was advisable for the son to be doing. The son took business steps that ended up, creating a political backlash, not for the father. This could have obviously been prevented if there was more communication, but this was the problem that they created by having this system. Well, I think it's the life of many fathers out there who are concerned about their sons or their children who are, going through a hard time. And Joe Biden has, watched his son deal with these addictions for going on 2 decades now. And this is something that he's completely done in secret. This is not something that he talks about publicly until recently. And this has just been a very hard time for Joe Biden, and it's been a very hard time for his son, who feels terribly guilty about what he's doing to his father's chances to win the White House.